YouTubers, and welcome to the knife review of the Microtech Mini Matrix Katana. And the Katana is a beautiful rendition of the Mini Matrix, and the Matrix is a step-down version of Microtech's Matrix knife. The Matrix knife is the larger one. It came out first. It has a 3 5/8 inch blade. The Mini Matrix has a 3-inch blade. And there are similarities to the zero tolerance 0777. I'm not going to be getting into that. I'm going to flash up a picture showing the similarities and just acknowledge that there is controversy that's been discussed ad nauseum on the blade forums. So the size is similar to a variety of knives, and I have some examples here. It's similar to the Rat 2. It's the Shirogorov Neon is a little bit larger. This is a small Sabenza. As you can tell, the small Sabenza is a little smaller than the Microtech Mini Matrix. Here is a Hinderer XM18 3-inch, which is a little bit longer in the handle but similar in blade length. And then here is a Mini Griptilian, which is a little bit smaller than the Mini Matrix. The steel of the Mini Matrix is made of Elmax. It has some jimping on the back of the blade that gives you a good purchase whenever you use it. As you can tell, there's a little bit of swedging on the distal aspect of the spine, and the blade is a saber grind. It's flat ground from about halfway to a third of the way, depending on if you're on the anterior or the posterior aspect of the blade. The blade is described as a reverse tanto. Whenever you have the end of the blade clipped off, they call it a reverse tanto. If you have the clipping starting earlier, they just call it a clip point. And it's very similar to the Osborne 940 of what Benchmade makes. They also call this a 940 reverse tanto blade. One of the things I like about the blade is that on the blade tang, it has a rounded interface for the stop pin. So whenever the blade tang meets the stop pin, instead of having the blade tang flat, it's curved and it cups the stop pin as to better disperse the force over the surface area of the stop pin. Not all blades are made this way. I want to give you an example of the Emerson Traveler. If you can see this, the blade tang is flat so that whenever the Emerson Traveler interfaces with the stop pin, you have one point on the blade tang interfacing with the rounded stop pin. And the design on the Mini Matrix is much better. Not only does it have that cupped appearance whenever it's in the open configuration, but also when it's in the closed configuration, that's rounded as well. So the blade tang is very well designed on this. The pivot runs on bearings, and it has these proprietary Microtech pivots that are tri-winged pivots, and the hardware. It has 3 screws that hold in the anodized aluminum backspacer. There is a screw that holds in the stop pin. There are on the lock side 2 screws that hold in the lock bar, and then 2 other screws that hold into the lock insert, which interfaces with the blade tang and also acts as an over travel stop. All of these have the proprietary pivots. You can get the pivot tool on Blade HQ for $23. The deployment method is by flipper. And honestly, to flip this, you need to use a little bit of wrist. And that's a twofold reason. The deployment angle is not very good on this knife. As you can tell, whenever I fully depress the flipper tab, it only deploys to about 40 degrees. I'm going to give you an example to contrast it with a great flipper, which is the Browse Blades Razorback. And this flips out like a maniac. I'm going to go ahead and fully deploy this to see what the deployment angle is. You fully deploy this, and you get out to about 80 degrees, almost a full 90 degrees, as opposed to only 40 degrees with the Katana. Also, the Browse blade has a great detent, really flips out well. The Katana has a weak detent. So between the weak detent and the poor deployment angle, you really don't get a good flipping action. And that's sad. You need to use a little bit of wrist. If you preload it and button push it, no, you still can't even get it with that. It's not a great flipper, let's be honest. So the combination of a weak detent and a poor deployment angle are fatal for this one. So really, if you're a guy that likes to sit around and have your knife as a fidget toy that you like to flip with, this knife is not going to be bringing you joy. The lockup on the lock bar is at about 15%. It locks up well. There's no vertical or lateral blade play. And the over travel bar is interesting because unlike other blades, I'm going to give you an example here of the Hinderer XM18. It has a cut in the lock bar side and then has a lock bar cutout, and that's how they do the lock bar. This is very different in that the lock bar is separate from the blade handle and it screws onto the blade handle and is completely separate. As a result, it doesn't need the lock bar cutout because the geometry is just a totally different thing. And the handle scales. The handle scales are beautiful. They're anodized aluminum, and then they have a laser etched insignia of a dragon on the blade. It's it's painted, and it has bronze painting on the blade as well. Very pretty. As you can tell, all of the hardware is colored as well. Very pretty. The ergonomics is very good on this knife. It has a good 4-finger grip. As you can tell on the first finger, there's a nice cutout there to fit your first finger. And then you can easily get all 4 fingers, and the jimping feels good on your hand. The pocket clip is great on this knife. It has a loop over pocket clip that attaches to the end of the knife, and this allows you good clearance. It's a stainless steel spring clip pocket clip that functions very nicely. And I want to give you an example of why this is a great knife. I want to contrast it with another knife's pocket clip. This is the pocket clip of the Benchmade Valet. It's a loop over clip and I really like it. But instead of attaching to the end of the knife, and you can tell it has 2 of the proprietary screws there that attach it, it attaches this one to the side of the knife. And there are a couple of things wrong. First of all, they have screws attaching it to the handle. The second is that they aren't countersunk flathead screws, they're rounded head screws. So you have only so much room to get your jeans pocket in there, and then it has to make it over those 2 screw heads. With the Mini Matrix design, everything is flat there, and you have a lot of room to get your pants jeans in there. So I really like the design of this loop over carry clip. So in summary, I'm going to talk about the opportunities for improvement of this knife and what I like about the knife. First of all, the things that could be improved is the flipping action. And there are 2 things that you could do. First of all, you could strengthen the detent, and then you could improve the flipping action, and that wouldn't be hard. As you'll notice, in the Mini Matrix, the flipper tab is placed posterior to the pivot. And in the great flipping knives, they have it anterior to the pivot like the Browse Blades razor. So whenever you design a knife, you need to move your pivot back and your flipper tab forward, and that gives you a better deployment angle, and then strengthening the detent. The other thing that I don't like about the knife is, I like and I don't like, the proprietary hardware is beautiful, it's beautifully copper colored. However, I don't like that they didn't include the proprietary tool, but that they charge you $23 for. There are makers that make proprietary tools. For example, Alamic Cutlery. This is the Alamic 24/7 Acid Rain, and you can see they have a proprietary pivot. But Alamic provides you with the pivot tool for free. They provide you this, and then you can put it in the pivot, and you can disassemble the knife, and you have everything you need. With the Mini Matrix, Microtech makes it so that you cannot disassemble their knife unless you buy a second product from them. And I think that's a little cheeky. I think that they could do better. What I like about the blade is, as I've mentioned again, the blade tang is rounded, and it diffuses the force of interfacing with the stop pin. The lock bar is unique, and the lock bar insert. Both the lock bar and the lock bar insert can be removed just by taking apart these two proprietary screws. And I love the deep carry pocket clip. Also, I love the laser etching graphic on the show side scale of the Dragon over the anodized scale, and the painting on the blade. In short, if you're a guy that likes to sit around and get joy just having a knife as a fidget toy and flipping it, this probably isn't the knife for you. But if you like a compact 3-inch blade, light knife that has a great pocket clip, a unique lock bar, and a beautiful graphic, I think you'll enjoy this knife. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned something from it. I'm going to allow you to see the beauty of the knife for the rest of the video.